This podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Michael O'Neill. Michael is the founder and CEO at GetWell. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hey, JP, thanks for having me. It's good to be with you.
Yeah, we're delighted to have you. So been looking forward to this one for a while now, so let's jump straight in. First of all, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your background and your journey to founder and CEO of GetWell.
Of course. So I actually grew up in New York, the middle of 5 kids over 7 years. So I don't know if your listeners know this, but whenever you have a sibling that's born within 12 months here in the US, we call them Irish twins. So I'm a part of a set of Irish triplets. So my first 2 brothers and I were all born within 3 years. So we kind of traveled the world like a pack of wolves. So there were 5 of us. We're incredibly tight and close to this day. So grew up around this incredible, loving family. 1 bedroom, 2 bunk beds, 3 brothers and I, and my little sister off in the Queen's room next door. So it was a great upbringing. Went to college out at Notre Dame in the middle of the country out in Indiana. And then came back to New York to work in advertising. There's a very famous advertising guy in New York. His name is Donnie Deutsch, and he kind of became the king of kind of pop culture and kind of how to resonate with what's happening in the world. And had a chance to watch an unbelievable entrepreneur at work when I was a young person and worked for him for 3 or 4 years. And then went to graduate school down in Washington, D.C. at Georgetown and did a joint degree in law and business. And a middle of the way through my graduate program, I was diagnosed with a blood cancer called non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and became a member of the Cancer Club, which none of us think we want to become a member of. But actually, when you do, it ironically has some of these unexpected benefits and kind of privileges. So I went through a bunch of crazy surgeries and chemotherapy, and that precise experience is kind of what led to the work. And so we'll get into that in a minute, but so it's been this pretty remarkable kind of life journey in healthcare. Kind of came front and center when I was 28 years old, and I figured out sometimes the clinical care is amazing, but man, oh man, the experience of care can be really rough, on patients and families. And so we decided to spend whatever limited time I may have had at the time, and certainly limited talent, but trying to figure out how to make it better for the next person up, which kind of leads to the company.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I know this is something that you have put out into the world, the mission behind GetWell and how it impacted you personally. So it's obviously an incredibly cool story, but you've also built an amazing company. So let's talk about GetWell, who you are, what you do, mission of the business.
Sure. When I was sick, I spent 9 or 10 days in a hospital bed waiting for a pathology to come back, And so back in the day, when you get all these tests done, it would take a lot longer to kind of have them come back to really understand what you were going through. And it's interesting. I had been in grad school, and those of us who are actually in school or at work, it's pretty amazing all the access we have to information at our fingertips, and this empowerment to make key decisions in your life. And when you become a healthcare patient, ironically enough, a lot of that empowerment, kind of gets taken away. And so the mission, of the business from day one was literally to help people take a more active role in their health journey. And we had a thesis, that really said, hey, we believe that patient engagement is not an amenity. It's not a nicety. It actually is a transformative approach to delivering care. And if we can actually use technology to help large, complicated healthcare organizations deliver highly personalized care and to help patients engage and take control of their own journey, the care will not only feel better to them, it will get better. And we'll be able to measure that in the very outcomes that have been so elusive in healthcare forever, a better experience, a higher quality experience, a safer experience, and one that has better health outcomes. And so, so the mission of the business is to help people take a more active role in their health journey. The way we do that is to write what we would call, and the industry would call, patient engagement software. And we sell that software to large health systems and large insurance companies so that the end users, are the patients or the members, but the buyers of that software are the large enterprises. And we're running these patient engagement programs at very targeted patients. And now we're touching about 10 million patients a year. And we're really helping them kind of self-actualize, educate, engage, and activate into their own care so they get the very best care for themselves.
Yeah, amazing. And you launched the business back in 2000. So obviously patient experience and the data available has evolved. And when you look at the last few years at an increasingly fast pace. So rather than focus on the impact that you are having at various points, if you could just help us visualize the current version of Get Well, the impact that you're having for these hospitals and health systems and how it's improving the patients, the people on the other side of it.
Sure. So I'll give you kind of two sides of the equation. Number one, we do a lot of work inside the hospital. And so our engineers here at Get Well have designed, built, implemented, and they continue to support some of the world's most advanced patient smart rooms. And what that means is you're a patient laying in a hospital bed, anxious, uncomfortable, waiting for your doctor to kind of come in. And we actually have written software that ties to your clinical records. So we know what patients in what bed at what time. We know what language they speak. We know what medications they are on. We know who their doctor is. And we use all this data primarily from the electronic health record system. And we use it to deliver highly personalized content to that patient, either through their patient television, through their phone, through an iPad that's affixed to a swing arm, and so we actually just use pieces of glass, to make that environment around the point of care very personalized and very interactive. And so the patients if you're a patient in a Get Well bed, we'd be welcoming you to that hospital in a different way. We'd be teaching you how to stay safe while you're there. Please call before you fall, kind of thing. Prevent falls in a hospital. We'd be educating you on your medications. We'd help you get them filled before you even leave the building. If you're going home, do you have a ride home? Can you get your butt out of here and get back to your home and your work on time? And so here's your doctor. Do you have questions before he or she comes back in? And so we are really kind of almost like a picture having a digital roommate, with you at all times in the hospital, and that's essentially kind of what Get Well Network actually is. And the outcomes from that are shorter length of stays, are less readmissions because you know what to do when you actually leave kind of their skilled hands. It is happier patients. It is happier nurses. It is these kind of things that we're driving outcomes on. That's on the hospital side. Mm-hmm. More and more of the work, as you can imagine, is shifting outside those four walls because it's really important for all of us as healthcare patients to kind of stay connected to our plans of care when we're not in the skilled hands, of a doctor or a nurse. And so we run all kinds of programs that, of course, are just cloud-based and mobile that run at target populations. So, for example, we would be given a file of 1.5 million people in underserved communities who have not been in to see a primary care doctor in over 18 months. And our job is to use conversational AI and outreach and SMS texting to reach out, build a trusting relationship with those people and help them get back into the care they actually need. And so the measures of that, of course, are, hey, how many of those patients can we help get back into care so they actually can be cared for proactively before they end up in an emergency department, or an urgent care center or what have you. And so these would be the kind of programs that we actually, work on and really drive results on as well.
Yeah, makes absolute sense. And one of the probably lesser known factors for the patient, but something that you and I would know about is if you can impact the rate of admissions and you can impact people's in preventative care, you reduce the risk of chronic illness and you reduce the strain and cost on the hospital, which is massive. Let's talk about the fun stuff, the AI side of things. So
Sure.
Part of what's got us talking is the recent sort of partnership that Get Well made with the SAIGroup, who, for those listening are not familiar, are a powerhouse in AI investing with some incredible companies in their portfolio. So you guys have brought in, one of the most well-known, well-respected players in the game for not just advanced AI, but AI focusing on health.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that and what the impact of that is going to have on accelerating Get Well's advancement in AI.
Yeah, it's interesting. We have been through a couple of very successful private equity, venture capital and private equity cycles, and we're very grateful to the partners that we've had along the way. And every time you go through one of these turns as a founder CEO, quite honestly, it is like 5% focus on what you've accomplished and 95% on what the next stage, of the play is going to look like, and who's your right partner to help you run after things that you actually have in your mind, who has both the willingness and candidly the capability to help you advance, what you're trying to do. And something you mentioned earlier is really important, and it kind of speaks to the search that we had for our kind of new and kind of current partner. And that was, we see a world where Get Well, any of us who have a doctor or nurse in our family, when anything goes wrong in the extended family, you text to one person and they try to help that whole family community navigate to the right setting of care. We have a vision that Get Well can really democratize and make ubiquitous, having a doctor in your family. And it's a really compelling thing, and so we envision a world where we actually can really be a hyper-personalized navigator in your pocket, to really proactively make sure you're maximizing your human potential through the lens of your health. How are you staying proactively involved in your care? Are you eating the right foods? Do you have stuff you need to see a doctor for, or can you actually manage this on your own? And so with these kind of ambitions in mind, we are touching 10 million people a year, but we should be touching 100 million people a year. Like, people need help, in navigating this. The world's complicated, both mentally and physically, in our well-being. And so as we run at these things, I was fielding and getting some typical term sheets from very kind of down center lane private equity shops. And I love them, but financial engineering versus innovation is oftentimes, the mantra there. And I had gotten a few calls that at first I didn't return, and finally I was smart and did return one to the team at SAIGroup. And for those who don't know, it is owned and run by one of the world's AI thought leaders, Ramesh Wadhwani, who is now the chairman, owner, and my new boss. And he has it's not AI for PR sake or a press release. He has been in the game from the beginning. He figured it out for 18 years, and what he would tell you were like moderate successes until he really figured it out and became a massive success, And so he has the grit of a founder. He's got the intellect, of an AI leader, and man, he has the drive, of somebody that is. I thought I was relentless until I met him, and so when I called his team back on a Friday afternoon, they told me that Ramesh wants to meet Friday night, at 8 p.m. We were on a first Zoom call until 11 p.m. The next Tuesday, I was out at his home in Silicon Valley for a half a day. And by the end of the day, we kind of shook on a deal to figure out, how we can help leverage his AI expertise and the AI platform they have at SAI to really create a next act of the play for Get Well, to really help, organizations and people kind of manifest, well-being using AI. And so it's a really exciting time for us right now. Terrifying on one minute and exhilarating at the next,
Yeah, it's such a great overview. And again, the potential that it means for Get Well bringing in such a powerhouse is remarkable given the track record. But the focus is on what's next, what's the immediate next chapter. And I know from conversations that you and I are having with the broader team, there's a real focus now on bringing in, the next wave of supreme talent to help you on this journey. When we look beyond just the people side, which we'll come back to in a moment, when you look at the roadmap, the near-term roadmap, particularly the next 18 months to 2 years, because it's hard to know what's beyond.
Sure.
What are you excited about? What are you expecting to build, and what will be the knock-on effect for the users, for the hospitals and healthcare systems and the patients? What can we expect to see as the next gen of Get Well's offerings?
Yeah, I'll just talk about some two kind of tactical things to kind of run at a current portfolio of solutions that can be significantly enhanced, using AI. And then I'll talk about an arc that really is more transformative. So first of all, you can picture in both the kind of categories where we actually work, when you think about AI, the data that SAIGroup and we have access to collectively, we're talking about over 1 billion kind of claims data. You're talking about 120 million people's so we have an amazing amount of data we have access to, and we have a lot of data on exactly how people who are going through healthcare interact with information, with their physicians, with their clinicians, with their situation, how they navigate. And so we have a really unique data set that needs to, of course, be put together in a data model, which is the foundation of all the things that all of us kind of want to do well. Okay. But when we actually do that, man, I would tell you, this notion of having a roommate if you're in the hospital, and one that really is as smart as the physicians and the nurses who are taking care of you. And also when you're navigating, imagine truly having a navigator to boost the personalization, the information, the guidance for you when you're going through a pregnancy, or you're going through a cancer episode, or you're having a heart procedure, or getting a knee replaced, or all these things that actually happen. And so in the very near term, in the middle of 2025, we'll be introducing, some pretty powerful enhancements to our current portfolio, which we're excited about.
Yeah.
At the same time, the people getting to know many of them through you and your firm, thankfully, man, I'm not kidding. I am blown away, not just by their intellect, but by the soul of their work. They have an incredible appreciation for some of the general world's hesitation on some things as it relates to AI in healthcare. But man, oh man, they are running at problems like, how do you identify earlier someone's at risk for a heart attack, who may look healthy on the outside, but really is not? How do you actually run at a whole population of young people who are struggling with mental health? And how might you help them self-actualize in the navigating the ups and downs, the world has kind of dealt to them. And so, man, we are so energized, and the word's overused, but we have given the company a heads up. We are going to take the organization through a transformation. It's going to include an incredible flood, of new talent and new ideas, who will have respect for what we have done and what we've accomplished, but they will push us, into new ways of thinking, and so it's a really exciting time to be here. It's certainly an exciting time to be leading,
Yeah, indeed. Finishing on the people side of things, because I know it's something that you're particularly passionate about, you and I have spoken about previously, and what's helped get to where it is today was not just your own relentless drive and vision, but the people that went on the journey with you. As you now start to have conversations with people in the world of AI and data about the next phase, the next chapter, what your identifying markers are that you're looking for. When you feel like you've found someone who could be a good addition to the team, what is it that you tell them about GetWell, its mission, the next few years, that gets them excited enough to join you guys over some of the other great companies also trying to attract this same talent?
Totally. I think it's really kind of three things. Number one, it's interesting when companies are around for 20 years, you can imagine a lot of stuff gets really kind of embedded. And I tell people, number one, hey, there's one thing that's a sacred thing here that will never change. It's our values. Number one, root for each other. This is a team sport. Patient engagement is hard. The technology is difficult. Our customers are complicated. And so we have to root for each other. It doesn't mean we agree all the time. We're purposely bringing in people that have a pretty decent sized ego, a lot of intellect. So we'll debate like crazy internally on what's best for the patient, but then we're locking arms when we actually walk out of that room. The second thing is share openly and honestly. The world is moving too fast for us not to share our wins so others can benefit from them, and also share our misses so we actually can avoid them a second time. The third thing is be world-class every day. Man, look, we are a relatively small, a big company in the perspective of patient engagement, a small company in the perspective of the customers we actually have. So when these multi-billion-dollar companies are signing a multi-million-dollar contract with us, they're asking the question, can this little company be at the forefront of how we are relating to the precious patients that we actually take care of and the members that we actually serve? So we have to be on our A game, and we need people who actually get energy, from kind of really kind of stepped up and kind of taking that risk. And the fourth thing is find strength in our differences. We don't think about this diversity thing, again, like a press release. We actually truly believe and are purposely recruiting for people that come from different walks of life, different countries, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different educational backgrounds, because our patients are from all over the place. So we better have perspectives, that don't just have people that look like me, and came from my upbringing. And so it's number one, I think it's the value set that's really important. Everything else is fair game. These four things are not. We actually recruit for them. We promote for them. We fire for them. Like, this is actually kind of what it is the company is actually all about, number one. The second thing is, this AI thing for us, we've done a bunch of light conversational AI, but for people who actually have experience creating and building and deploying real deep AI tools, you are going to be a leader here. And so we're recruiting people who actually want to lead because we are going to transform this, and our new talent is going to be a big driver of that. Second thing. The third thing actually really is around, it's funny, when I recruit people directly, they oftentimes are saying, hey, I have this great job right now, but I really want to make sure that, like, my next position, I want to be the one making like the hard calls. And I'm like, hey, listen, let me just tell you something. Like, your success will be my success and the success of the patients that we're trying to touch. So when you actually come here, the very decisions that we will empower you to make will honestly impact the lives of literally your neighbor and your mom and your son, and your cousin who's across the country or across the world. And so that's kind of the three things that I'm always kind of floating through, because the intellect is candidly table stakes. We're talking about some really smart people, and we know that, Yeah.
Michael, final question. Assuming we get the next few months right, which we're all working hard to do, and we bring in that leadership layer, if you forecast a year from now, speaking to an audience of AI and data professionals, many of them just listen in to see what's going on in the space and who's grown
Sure.
and where the opportunities are. When you think of where you want to be a year from now, how much growth do you see in your data, AI, and supporting groups? Because it's product, it's analytics, it's engineering.
Sure.
Help us visualize the scale of investment and growth that you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, right now, between now and the end of the year, we've got over 30 positions we're trying to fill. So like right away, we're hitting it, and most of them are in innovation. It is from product, in data. It is just pure AI engineers. I mean, it's a combination of all the roles that quite well. And the expectation is that we have a really important date that the chairman is pushing us on for next spring. We'll be launching, announcing, our first wave of like new solutions into the market. And then we'll go through another wave, that'll probably be twice that size in the second half of next year. It's kind of is what the plan kind of currently is. And so lots of growth ahead, and a lot of energy around getting this right, which has been great. It's going to be great.
Yeah. And I speak to people in Get Well on an almost daily basis going on this journey with you, and I can tell you that the energy is alive and well at all levels. And most importantly, the people who speak to the team and interview, whether they're successful or not, they all come away and give us the feedback to say that's an amazing company, they're going to do big things. So with that said, my friend, thank you so much for coming on today. We wish you, the team, and everyone at Get Well the very best of luck on this next chapter. The mission is clear, the story is remarkable, and it's great people as well. So looking forward to having you back on. Maybe this time next year we hear about how the first launch went and how phase 2 is going.
Hey, thanks for all you do, man. I really appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.